BB-8. What is it? Well, they did say expected delay when you're working with children and animals. I wonder if that goes with droids too. The prospector's stuck in a well? You better go rescue him then, huh? Alright, lead the way. That way? I thought it was that way. Oh, that way. Okay. Moss Isley Spaceport. You won't find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. Hello everybody, we are Movie Herd. I'm Chan.
And I'm Kyle, and today we're talking about Star Wars A New Hope. This is the fourth and first filmed of these Star Wars, and released of these Star Wars movies. May
1977, and the world
will never be the same.
Would never be the same after that came out. Everything changed. I mean, before then, the 70s was a very bleak year for films up until that point. It was really dark. I mean, we just lost the Vietnam War, so everyone's really down on themselves in America at that point. Star Wars was one of the first things that was the light at the end of the tunnel, and I think that's partly why people latched onto it so much. Is that it was so imaginative, and it was for, George did make it for the kids first, but the adults just latched right onto it as well, and it seems now it's like more for us adults now than anyone else. It seems like Star Wars had.
Well, it's kind of an older. It's a little slower than maybe a lot of films, but I think for its time it was actually pretty upbeat, pretty actiony, if you will.
Oh yeah.
It fits in perfectly with our generation now.
It's interesting. This is an interesting fact about this one is that George didn't want, up until that point, everyone had credits at the beginning of their films, and this was the first movie ever to not have credits at the beginning of the films. The studios didn't really like that, but George did it anyway, and so there's some films today that don't have credits at the beginning of the film, and that's thanks to Star Wars.
I don't know, I kind of like jumping right into the movie, not having credits in the beginning, but he did have that opening scroll.
Yeah.
Which was in replacement, it replaced the opening credits, and that is so iconic.
Mm-hmm.
So iconic. That's why everybody flipped out when it wasn't in Rogue One. But it's not part of the saga, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. And John Williams didn't score that. And speaking of John Williams, this is the first Star Wars film he did, and he of course established his great iconic Star Wars one of the greatest film scores of all time. And George at that point, it was interesting that he chose John Williams because we were getting close to the 80s, and film sound scores were starting to get less classical and more techno-y and more like weird sci-fi sounding. It's kind of hard to explain, like I don't know, a lot of sci-fi films and a lot of films in the 80s had kind of interesting scores that were kind of robotic-y and stuff. So George easily could have done that, and that's partly why Star Wars is so timeless, is that the soundtrack is classical, and classical music is timeless. And so it doesn't feel like a 70s film, and the big part of that is because
the orchestra,
yeah. 70s had their own little wonky things, like it just that's kind of hard to, but they all had their own. It's not stuck in the 70s.
Mm-mm.
That's the cool thing about Star Wars.
The entire movie is timeless. I mean, even the special effects. I mean, I guess they were special effects, but they weren't what we know today. Even they are quite timeless. Even the original special effects, like if you go watch that on a VHS before they remastered them or before they revisited it, they're quite timeless. The only things that aren't timeless are the things they added in.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. Like in the stuff that they added in '97 with the special edition, look like crap compared to the original '70s stuff. Like it does not age well. So that's totally right.
Well, '97 I feel like was the time when George Lucas started playing with CGI,
mm-hmm.
and he didn't quite get it right until Phantom Menace. That's when he finally got it right. I feel like he's just playing with it. Like, let's just try adding something. And it just didn't work out very well.
There needs to be a special edition of the special edition. Like, they need to go back and fix all that stuff and add better CGI.
Either add better CGI or just take it out and just have the original. Just a remastered version of the original.
Oh man, like, speaking of that, like the most controversial decision he made with the 97 versions was Han shooting last, not first.
Han shot first.
Yeah, Han shot first. Let's get that straight. First. Yeah.
Now, the reasoning behind it, though, did kind of make sense, but at the same time, it just wasn't necessary. He did it, I think, because like he didn't want Han to look like a cold-blooded murderer, but he's a smuggler.
Yeah, my argument against that is it shows how much farther Han has grown to in Jedi. Like he goes from like a killer, cold killer from there to Heart of Gold smuggler, rebellion hero. So the story arc is that much better, that much sweeter. Why did you make it look like he wasn't as, and that edit looked terrible. Like,
it did.
Like his head like twitches and like it just didn't look right. Like he if you look closely, he's like.
It's either that or the edit of Jabba the Hutt. Jabba's edit. It was better-ish, sort of, but it looked really funny when he went up and then went down. It just didn't look natural.
The funny thing is did you see the original deleted scene of that? It's Jabba was originally a human.
Yeah.
So in the line where he's like, Jabba, you're a wonderful human being. That makes no sense because he's not a human being. So they should have just took that out completely.
Well, it's also kind of comical, though.
Yeah.
It's kind of comical because he's not a human being.
Yeah.
So it's like, but it doesn't really fit, though, at the same time.
Yeah, like, because they took that scene out originally because George wanted more diversity in Star Wars, so they're like, we'll just take that, we'll just scrap Jabba until we can get our effects better for the next film. And so, but now that he thought he had better effects in 97, he had that CGI slug, and it looks terrible compared to the puppet too.
That's actually one of the reasons why I was really hoping, or was really excited for them to release the original trilogy in 3D, because they were going to hopefully maybe remaster some stuff like they did in episode 1.
Yeah.
And they never got there because Disney owned them. But other than that, other than the added stuff, this movie is so good. It just starts it all.
We'll just, with what we just said about the 97, we'll just say that's the 97. That's not the film. We're talking about 1977 original release. Perfect film.
Oh, yeah.
It's in the AFI's 100 greatest films of all time, or 100 greatest films list that you should watch before you die, and it's for a good reason. It was the first of its kind and not the last. Thanks to Disney. So
the beginning of many.
Yeah, beginning of many, and tons of knockoffs afterwards as well. Tons of clones.
Oh yeah.
Well, I remember. Were you there when I watched the Black Hole Disney made? Yeah, that was like a complete. Of course, that was.
It's pretty bad. The Black Hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not entertaining. Nowhere close to Star Wars.
Yeah.
Star Wars, like in itself, like the way it was filmed and the way it was told, and even the dialogue, I think was ahead of its time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the editing.
The editing, for sure was ahead of its time.
They got Academy Award, if I'm not mistaken, for editing, best editing. The Star Wars, that film actually won 7 or 8 Academy Awards, which was awesome. They got nominated for Best Picture as well, so it's like, what? They should have got Best Picture. Really should have. And man, like, yeah, the editing is the standard today. I swear that set the pace for the editing now, because how it's edited is very much like films today.
And the crazy thing is that most of the ships and everything, those are all like miniatures. They used a lot of miniatures in this, and that is crazy that they did all that work with miniatures. And it kind of, I feel like this movie is the perfect incorporation of the old style of filmmaking and then the nowadays. So I guess in that time would be the future style of filmmaking. They combine those perfectly into this movie, and the storyline is great. It's funny in times, which it might be funnier nowadays just because we have a different humor nowadays than it was back then. But it is like the perfect.
Watch your mouth, kid. You're gonna find yourself floating home. I remember, like, I thought that was such a funny line. Like, that's so true. What's that? Oh, don't touch that. Like, I think Han is the funniest he's ever been in this film. Han's almost. This is probably my favorite. This movie, I don't know. I feel like it definitely belongs to Han. Like, it's my favorite movie, or for Han. Like, I don't know. It's like, Han is the best in this film.
Agreed.
Because I think it's because he's so close to being that smug pirate smuggler, because he gets into a better human being throughout. And it's funny, we like Han more of a scoundrel than him being all nice.
Well, if you think about it nowadays, what are some of our favorite movies? Pirates.
Yeah.
Which has Johnny Depp in it, so he plays Jack Sparrow. He's kind of a, the odd. He is in a way similar to Han Solo.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
A type of a character. There's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Star-Lord. Yeah.
We enjoy
Solo.
scoundrels. We really do. They're more entertaining to watch.
What was it? Firefly.
Firefly.
Yeah. That guy, Captain Reynolds, Malcolm Reynolds.
Malcolm Reynolds. Yeah.
Han Solo. There's all these characters. Sawyer from Lost. I watched the special features on Lost, and they said Sawyer is the Han Solo of Lost, and that's why Sawyer's my favorite character in Lost and stuff. So there's so many characters inspired by Han Solo. Just John Wayne in space, just that smug scoundrel, that half crooked smile he always does, and then the wink, it's just, you can't beat it. Like one of Harrison Ford's best movies.
You talked about the progression of how Han progresses a little bit, and it's funny because he progresses or he changes, and he has a lot of changes in this movie alone. Because he goes from a scoundrel and just kind of cold-blooded at the beginning, and then by the end he's met Princess Leia. He's he knows something's gonna happen. He's yeah, okay, something's gonna happen here, and he's kind of starting to calm down a little bit from his scoundrel to be maybe more interesting to Princess Leia, more whatever. I don't know.
I love that line. It's do you think a princess and a guy like me? No. You can tell Han, really, he only did that to just get a reaction out of Luke. That was just, that relationship was so funny. He would just pick on, he was the big brother. He'd just pick on him it's oh, so what do you think of her? And he's trying not to, kid. And he's good. He's she's all mine. Well, she's got a lot of spirit. It's just he's just trying to pick on him. It's so funny. He definitely is the funniest in that film. Or it's where did you dig up that old fossil? I thought that was such a funny line regarding Ben Kenobi.
And his delivery of it is really funny too.
Yeah, you said it, Chewie.
That reminds me when they're
that old fossil.
When they're playing that I can't remember what the game's called, whatever around the table.
Sabak.
Sabak, I think that's what it is. Maybe.
I think Sabak is a card game.
Oh, it is a card game. It is. It's something, whatever it is.
The holographic chess.
They introduced that into this one, and that it's kind of a weird era to introduce that into a movie, if you think about it, because this is sci-fi, but I think that is something that they could have not had in it, and the movie would have been just as good. But the fact that they had that in it, somehow, it for later years, so for now, made it better. Because now they're able to refer back to that in episode 7, which is kind of funny. There's a lot of really, really fun little things that they added into this that they probably didn't need to, but they did anyways, and it made it better.
Thought it was interesting that, like you said, we're bringing up stuff that's in the Millennium Falcon. That little ball thingy that Luke trains with makes it to episode 2, where there's a bunch of them and the little Jedi kids are using them. So I thought that was interesting too. With the same not the same helmet, but same. They got they're blindfolded and.
Yeah, the weird thingy thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it allowed them to take some of those things and then give the history of it and show hey, this is where it was used before it was on the Millennium Falcon or before Luke used it or stuff like that. It was really kind of cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The battle. I mean, not the lightsaber battle between Ben Kenobi and Darth Vader. I mean, after seeing episode 3 and then there's so much more weight. That's partly why I love episode 3 is that there's so much more history now, and seeing those two fight. And we know their past. It's more emotional, and there's more weight to that fight because of the prequels.
It's funny because that fight is the slowest lightsaber fight among all of the Star Wars movies,
and shortest,
and shortest, and yet the most epic ending of the fight. You know what I mean? It ended in a very epic way, and yet
just self-sacrifice. Yeah.
It's kind of just that odd fight, but yet it's so good. And with, like you said, episode 3, it makes it so much better, and it gives it even more meaning and more depth.
It's better than the Force Awakens fight. Like, we'll learn pretty quickly that Force Awakens lightsaber battle is probably my least favorite out of all 7.
Yeah, it's not that great.
Yeah. And so I think a lot of like younger kids will kind of criticize especially if they love the prequels better. Like, oh, that fight sucks. But if you know their history and you just feel for it, like, wow, these guys are fighting again. Everything comes full circle. And everything that Vader was saying was so cool, so poetic. Like, it's like, when I left you, I was but the learner, but now I am the master.
You know,
that's such an epic line.
Something I just thought of from Rogue One. At the very end of Rogue One. If you haven't seen it yet, don't listen to what I'm about to say, but you've probably already seen what I'm about to say anyways. The end of Rogue One with the Darth Vader cameo, with him just going all AWOL on those people with the lightsaber, it kind of also brings new meaning to that duel with Obi-Wan or with Ben Kenobi, because Ben is an old man. He is old. He is like, he's slow. And it kind of makes me wonder, like, was Darth Vader just kind of going easy on him because he didn't want to, maybe he just didn't want to hurt him, but then Ben just gave him no choice. So he's like, all right, go for it, and just like,
well,
you know what I mean?
And another thing too, like, we'll dive even deeper to other spin-offs, but like, okay, don't listen to me if you haven't seen this Rebels episode, but Obi-Wan takes down Darth Maul as an old man, pretty close to him in this film, really quick, like samurai-like speed. So it's like they both have greater capabilities than they showed then.
That's so weird.
Isn't that crazy? So it's like they were holding back because they still love each other.
Well, speaking of old people, first of all, we love this movie, and please go watch it if you haven't seen it, because it is like the epic center of Star Wars. But speaking of old people, we want to know, do you guys think it's okay for them to revive characters that have died and the actors who played them have already died? Or maybe the character hasn't died, but the actor has died. Do you think it's okay for them to revive those characters as CGI? Is that okay? Is that not okay? What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below. And if you like this video, hit that subscribe button, check out some of our other Star Wars review videos, and we'll see you in the next one.
Like hokey religions and old blasters. Just kidding. Alright, if you like that video, we have plenty of other Star Wars. We just did all the Star Wars prequels, so go ahead and watch those as well. I think they're right here.
And make sure to subscribe and check out our channel to watch the rest of them. And maybe we'll leave some links in the description below.